If you are a parry simp like me, you're gonna love this build. Just by perfectly executing one offset parry on a strong attack, you'll gain a flat 50 raw attack. Half of that is gonna last for 3 whole minutes. With my unupgraded Artian Greatsword, which has 989 raw attack damage, when I reach the maximum potential of this build, that raw attack damage increases to 1704. If I were to eliminate the coefficients from this number, I'll be starting at a base of 206 and amp up all the way to 354. That's huge. This build does use Heroic level 5, which would only trigger once you fall below 35% health, so it's only for those who truly wants to emulate Sekiro and live and die by the parry. Without heroics, we're gonna see a more tame number of 989 to 1373, and without coefficients, that's 206 to 286. Still a very high number, 80 raw attack, before accounting for crit and crit boost. And while I'll be showcasing this build to its optimal potential with greatswords, you can also make a case for any other weapon with an offset attack. A great example would be the Insect Glaive or the Switch Axe, which can use this build really well with some minor tweaks. To achieve this high damage boost, we're going to be using the Guardian Doshaguma 4-piece armor set to gain Powerhouse 2. This skill will trigger whenever we land an offset attack or power clash. Once activated, we get a flat 25% attack added to our raw damage, and this buff will persist for 3 whole minutes. Then we're going to be adding an additional spice with Counter Strike, which only activates whenever you get knocked back. Or so we think. The crazy thing about this skill is, if you armor through any attacks that could knock you back with, let's say, a shoulder tackle, or if you were to parry an attack with an offset attack, it will still activate. It's pretty freaking amazing. Additionally, because we're using the 4-piece Doshaguma set, we're also going to get access to the group skill Ward of Vivaria, which is admittedly not an important skill, but it is nice to have. It reduces elemental and unique damage while in the ruins of Vivaria, which may come in handy sometimes, especially when trying to trigger heroics. For this armor set, the head, the chest, the arm, and the legs are all going to be the Guardian Doshaguma beta set. For the waist, I'm going with the SOOO Wu Coil just so that way I can fill up more on heroics and get earplugs as well, while also gaining a lot of additional decoration slots. If you were to not be using a greatsword and don't really want to do heroics at all, I would recommend replacing this with something like Weakness Exploit or Agitator. As for the decorations for each of the armor slots, I'm going to show it on screen right now and we'll talk about the skills we gain access to. Let's talk about the important ones. Level 3 Counter Strike, obviously for that 25 flat damage whenever we parry anything or just get hit by an attack that we didn't parry. Whether you mistime the parry or not, it doesn't matter, you're getting 25 attack for 30 seconds, that's nice. Next up is going to be level 3 Maximum Might, which grants 30% affinity if our stamina is full. For things like Insect Glaive and even Greatswords, we're not going to be using stamina all that much while we're attacking, especially if you're Greatsword. You're just charging for a long time. The only time you're rolling is to reposition, but even then, it's not a big deal because this armor grants level 5 Constitution. This skill reduces the stamina cost of anything we do by 50%, rolling, blocking, or any other oddity like mounting a monster. And the last guaranteed offensive skill that we're going to get is level 5 Heroics, which grants us 30% attack as long as we are below 35% health. You're most likely never going to be using this unless you want to really be a show-off, or you love putting yourself in those high adrenaline situations of do or die. To help with this playstyle though, there's one level of Divine Blessing equipped onto this armor. You can take that away and use something else if you want to, but this is to maximize that damage. The last 2 skills are pretty optional. The first being Earplugs level 2. This could be amped up to 3 with the right charm, but right now I'm using 2 for something I'll explain later. But Earplugs is kind of nice for Greatsword because it lets you charge up your attacks longer without having to worry about monsters roaring or getting angry, so on and so forth. So when you're going from your strong charge slash, you might hit the monster, make them mad, and then they roar. With earplugs, you don't have to worry about that. You just keep charging and then you whack at them again, they get staggered again, maybe they even leave their anger state because you hit them so hard. But anyways, yeah, for this build showcase, I'm using level 2, which works for most large monsters, but if you can, go to level 3. The reason for that is because I am material poor. I don't have a lot to make more charms, so I'm using the Weakness Exploit charm for this build, which is admittedly not that bad for this build because it gives us 10 affinity when hitting a weak point or 15 affinity when hitting a wound. This could be replaced with level 2 Agitator, and that will give us a little bit more base raw attack that can be amped by Heroics' 30% attack boost and Offensive Guard, which we'll talk about later. Both of them are percentage based increases, making raw attack damage even more juicy, and you'll be able to reach level 3 if you just change the waist to anything with Agitator. Doing this will have you miss out on earplugs, but if you're using a more mobile weapon like Insect Glaive or Switch Axes, then yeah, you don't really need to charge anything and you can roll through roars and then just keep on wailing at the enemies. It's not that big a deal. I want to remind people that as I'm showing these clips, I don't have an upgraded RTN weapon and I'm still hitting for crazy amounts of damage, and I don't really use the Greatsword that much, so I can see this being really good on somebody who is passionate about Greatsword. It's gonna be nuts. Before we get to the weapons, support your boy by hitting that like button and subscribe for more Monster Hunter Wilds content. Thanks! If you're looking for people to play with, consider joining this channel's squad. The squad ID is on screen and in the description below. The crazy thing about greatswords is that the weapon skills are all really valuable and really good. What is a requirement for us is focus. No matter what other skill we choose, focus is mandatory. We need that extra fast charge time so we can do more DPS and also not die and be able to parry things easier. The other two jewels are more up to preference or whatever weapon you're using. I would personally recommend Blast or Sleep, as greatswords rely a lot more on raw, and having Blast just deals additional damage from time to time, while Sleep and even Paralysis can give you extra windows to deal a lot of damage. That said though, another way to trigger Powerhouse 2 is by getting a Power Clash, and if we're going to be blocking from time to time anyways, let's encourage that playstyle with Offensive Guard. At level 3, Offensive Guard increases your attack by 15% for about 10 seconds. It doesn't last very long, but that damage amp, whoo. Imagine landing a Power Clash and then getting to do your True Charge Slash while in Heroics. With a 0 affinity weapon, we're going to be sitting at 40% effective affinity, making Critical Boost 3 a viable option. With an affinity-based RTN weapon, or even half and half, like the one you see on screen with 10% affinity, that brings us up to 50%. At level 3 Critical Boost, we're getting a 34% damage increase whenever we land critical hits. Just through quick testing with this weapon, I am just tearing through everything just because this build outputs so much damage. The one thing too is that I find Greatsword's offset parry to be very easy to land compared to other weapons because it's so active for so long. You're never gonna miss it if you swing a little bit early. It's crazy how consistent this is. Give this build a try, it's really fun, especially if you're an offset / parry simp. You're gonna love it. And there you have it, a fun way to maximize offset counters in this game. I am a little bit envious since my main weapons don't have an offset counter, so I'll just have to live vicariously through all of you. If there are any other weapon skills that you think would go great with this build, let us know in the comments below. For even more fun builds, check out this video on screen right now. My name is Varsona, and I'll see you in the next video.